Casey Gray here from The Conscious Builder. And on today's show, we have Jean Brownhill on with us. She is the CEO and founder of Sweeten and has been hailed as the Contractor Whisperer by New York Magazine and one of Inc. Magazine's most innovative women founders in America. Sweeten is an online platform that matches home renovation projects with vetted general contractors, as well as offering advice, support, and financial protection for the duration of a project. On today's episode, we get into a lot, including why you shouldn't hire the lowest bidder, how to make sure you're comparing apples to apples when you're looking at different bids or quotes, and why it's important to match contractors and homeowners properly. So I won't hold you up any longer. Fantastic episode here. Here is Jean Brownhill. All right, Jean, welcome to the show for the second time because of technical difficulties last time. So it's meant to be, though. Everything happens for us, right?
That's right. That's right. It's great to be back.
So before we get into all the exciting things that you're creating on the Sweeten side and how you help contractors and help homeowners and get into all those details, I really want to start with your background and where this idea of Sweeten came from. So if I understand, you're an architect, trained as an architect, and did that for about 10 years, I believe. And then went on. So
well, you don't have to add timelines to it.
I think So.
But yes, my background is in architecture. I went to architecture school. I, in fact, did a graduate program in architecture. I practiced in architecture firms for, as you said, about a decade. But it wasn't until I tried to renovate my own home that I really learned about construction. That was absolutely the most eye-opening experience as far as like how the process actually works from the client side, not just from the industry side.
So actually, I want to dig into that a little bit. So when you did that, was there a disconnect in what you thought as an architect and also as a homeowner versus what actually had to happen on the job site? Like what exactly happened in that was what sounds like a painful experience?
Yeah, well, the very first step, the very first misstep that I took was that I hired the wrong general contractor. So even after working and hiring, so many contractors for so many projects, I did the thing that we definitely encourage people not to do is I took the guy who was absolutely the lowest bid. He was the lowest bid by far. And I totally put all my professional training out the window and said, no, I can make this work. Now, of course, it did not work out well. I had a really, really frustrating renovation. And in fact, I ended up basically GCing the project, the end of the project myself, meaning that I ended up hiring the tradespeople and working directly with them to complete the project. And I think one of the things, there's a couple things that were really a different mindset. And so first, as an architect, as you're drawing lines on a paper, you don't understand that every single one of those lines, every single time you change something, those are dollars. Those are dollars spent. And now maybe conceptually you understand it, but until they are actually your dollars that you are spending, you do not feel it. And
Right.
So then when I went to go hire a general contractor and I was getting the bid set priced, the prices were coming in much higher than my budget, but I had set my sights on, this is the project that I wanted to be completed. And so I had flipped into the homeowner mindset where I said, oh, well, no, this is what I want. I'm in love now. I feel like I can achieve the same level of finish, achieve the same process, the quality and standards and customer service level that I'm looking for, but with this much, much lower cost general contractor. And never in the history of the world has that worked.
No. So when you say every line cost money, like you're saying that you didn't have a budget or you didn't have a rough estimate to begin with, you kind of just designed out everything that you wanted and then you went and got pricing.
So I had a rough estimate. I certainly had a rough estimate, but like all things, it's not like the big ticket item. Those are easy to say no to. It is all the little things that add up, right? It is like, oh, well, yes, of course I want a powder room on the first floor. Oh, of course I want to be able to have access to the deck from the kitchen, right? We'll add a door here. We'll add a powder room. It's a tiny bathroom and it's like it's a sink and a toilet, right? That'll be, maybe, I don't know, 8K. No, that's 15K. At least in New York City, when you're renovating. And so it's the sum of all those small decisions adds up to a very big whole. At least that's what happened in my case. Like, of course, it was easy to say, like, we're not going to add a third story onto the house. That's too expensive.
Yeah.
But all those tiny little incremental decisions.
Death by 1,000 cuts, right? And that's usually a lot of the conversations. I love that we kind of started here because I have so many conversations, and it's pretty much the same conversation every time we get into a new project with somebody, because it's not like they've done it before, right? It's the 100th time for us, plus however many times we've done it. And it's the first time for the homeowner, typically, not always. Some of them have been through a renovation like what you're describing, and then they've come to us, and those are usually our best clients because they get it, right? So they're like, yeah, no, we did this before. We're not going to do that this time. We're happy to work with you. And those jobs go amazing.
Yeah.
But it's the other ones that we have to navigate. And those things are so important. There's not big one thing that you can usually take off the budget, right? When we do an estimate for somebody and it comes in higher, it's always higher. I've never done one that's below budget, whatever the clients want. It's like, well, what can we remove? And it's not just one thing. Like you said, it's you kind of have to start taking a little bit from everywhere. And that's where it gets really tricky a lot of the time. So
yeah. Well, and I completely agree. So from that renovation, I created Sweeten. And I will tell you a little bit about our experience, because now we've done thousands of renovations, and most of them are with first-time homeowners or homeowners who have had a really bad experience and are looking to have a very different experience the second time around. So I'll just give you a little bit of background about the company. So it's a two-sided marketplace where we connect, our curated list of general contractors with homeowners projects. And you'll see in the platform, if you were to go through it, the very first step as a homeowner, when you come to our site, we will ask you a series of questions about your project. And you don't know this, but we actually can't post your project to be matched to our general contractors without it passing our pre-qualification algorithm. And what that algorithm is mostly checking for is this project, is the scope and the budget aligned, right? So just like imbued in our platform are all the lessons that I make mistakes on myself. It's learn from others, not your own mistakes. You can learn from me. And so as an example, when if I were to have posted my project on Sweeten, I wouldn't have passed. I wouldn't have passed the pre-qualification algorithm because my scope and my budget were completely out of whack. And this is, again, after years of being in the industry.
Yeah.
I had been working at a different price point. I had been working at a very, very high end of the market. And so when I came to my own project, I thought like somehow the laws of gravity or scope and budget alignment wouldn't apply to me. So that's the very first step. We make sure that you're being realistic about what you're trying to achieve and how much you have budgeted. Now, if you need help in creating that budget, we can help you. If you need help reducing your scope, we can help you do that. But before we actually match your project to any of our list of curated general contractors, we got to have that scope and budget alignment.
So that's great. So I have all sorts of questions, but I'll start with the homeowner because that's kind of where you started. So as a homeowner, when they come to your platform, they fill out the questionnaire. Is there any cost to them? Is there why would they go fill out that versus doing their own Google search, for example, to try and find a contractor?
Doing your own Google research is certainly helpful, but it's kind of like going to a dating site and just picking someone at random and being like, ooh, I want to date that person. That person may or may not want to date you. They may or may not be a good match for you, right? So when you just do a random Google search and you find a general contracting firm and you see oh, I love their projects. Oh, I love the work that they've done. They've got great reviews. Did you notice that all their projects were townhouses? You have a bathroom renovation. Are you sure that they do bathroom renovations? Are you sure that they do bathroom renovations at your cost per square foot? Very unclear. And so
Yeah.
the benefits of coming to Sweeten is we'll ask you again, what is your scope? What is your budget? What is the finish level you're trying to achieve? What is the style? What is the location? What is the timeline? And then we will match you with a short list of options that we feel are the best matches for your project. So we'll serve up 8 options, and your job is to then look at those curated list and choose 3. We will then conduct a competitive bidding process between those 3, right? So you still want to make sure you always should get multiple estimates for your project, just to make sure that you understand where the market is. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about where the market is as far as costs. You want to hold a competitive bidding process. So you will have site visits with each one of them. They will submit estimates to you. You can have a dedicated account manager from Sweeten conduct a bid leveling call with you, where we'll go through each one of those estimates with you, and we'll actually help you to compare the service offering of each of the firms, the line items of each of those estimates, so that you really walk away understanding what it is that you are getting by choosing one of those 3. The other thing I think, and again, I basically just built the platform for like exactly myself back in the day when I was doing my renovation, because so many times people think about a general contracting as a commodity. And it's just not a commodity. Each one of these firms has different service levels that they're offering you. Each one of them has different levels of finish capabilities, meaning like their tradesmen, their craftsmen may or may not be more skilled or less skilled. And, you know, we have ways to figure that out based on their average cost per square foot historically. And then obviously, you know, the last thing, which is like the more nuanced thing, is just the communication style that this general contractor has set up as a norm of their firm. Does that match with your communication style? Does that match with what you're looking for? And I'll give you an example. Are you looking for someone who is going to be incredibly collaborative? Meaning, have you clearly identified that you're going to be looking to them to help you to select materials, to not only select like, oh, which of these limestones, but actually to tell you like, okay, I think we should do limestone. Here's how to look together. This is why we're thinking that. So it's like, is it material selection, or are we asking for design? And just really getting super clear on what it is that you're expecting from the general contractor. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's
No, it's a good example. I also liked your analogy of, you know, just because you want to date somebody doesn't mean they want to date you. And it's the same thing, right? Just because you want to work with a contractor doesn't mean the contractor wants to work with you. But a lot of contractors will take on the projects because they feel they might need it, or it's another job. And then they actually end up doing a job that they're not used to doing, or that they don't really want to do at the end of the day. And another reason why it could not go well. So that we're at a point that, you know, we can say, no, we're not interested in this project. We help them out. Maybe they can find somebody else, and vice versa. But that's easier said than done. When somebody's coming to you with work, you want to say yes to it, especially if you're a little bit newer, maybe you haven't been around as long, whatever it may be. The other question, I want to play devil's advocate a little bit, but
Sure.
just dig into the competitive bidding. So if you're getting competitive bidding on a project, are people going with the lowest, or as you work through that, are you working through? Because I know you described some details, which I like, because one of the things that I don't like, if a homeowner is trying to go through bids, they're never comparing apples to apples, but it sounds like you're going to help them make sure they're comparing apples to apples, which kind of eliminates that, well, we're just going with the lowest bid, but the lowest bidder probably didn't have all the stuff that the highest bidder had.
That's right. That's right. And pointing out to people, right? So oftentimes people will just look at that bottom price and be like, oh, well, again, this is where the idea of treating it as like a commodity. It's not like there's one apple and
Right.
you're buying that one apple at all different prices. That's not what's happening. It's again, we're going to have way too many analogies in like very short order. So I'm going to just get back to
Analogies are good though for understanding, right? And I think it really sinks in. I'm all for good analogies.
But oftentimes, especially on the lowest bid, people will miss that maybe there are a number of TBD elements. Maybe there's a number of things that general contractor has not included in their price. And a homeowner will kind of glaze over that and be like, no, this is the price. That's not the price. Because the other firm has everything included. And this person has a bunch of basically like question marks. And you don't know what that could be. Another 30,000, it could be another 3,000, it could be another $30. You don't know. And neither do they. And so I think that's a big part of, again, just like walking people through, making sure that they've really understood what the estimates are pricing, and then understanding what is the level of customer service that the general contractor is willing to provide, and then what are the actual services that the general contractor is willing to provide, all at that price.
And once again, so there's no cost to the homeowner for this, right? So this is something that goes on to kind of the contractor side.
Exactly. So we only work with general contractors that have passed our vetting, our 7-step vetting, and they're people that we have really long-term relationships with. So we are basically working with them to help them grow their business. And that means giving them feedback, helping them obviously with sales. And for that, they're the ones that pay us, not the homeowner.
And what is your vetting process? So 7 steps. I'd be curious to know, because obviously homeowners probably would like to know how you're vetting your contractors as well, right?
Absolutely. So the very first thing that we do is we make sure that only licensed general contractors, we only work with licensed general contractors. So that's like the first thing. We make sure that they have an actual registered business in your state. We confirm that they have a valid license. Then we have an actual 30-minute interview with them where we conduct kind of scenario testing to make sure that they understand that they are both in the customer service business and the construction business. You would be surprised how many people do not make it past that step. Then we actually go out and we check their references. So we like to make sure that the projects, the people, and the permits, where possible, all align so that we make sure that that work was really done by that firm. And then we look at their projects, evaluate the level of construction that they do. So we need to make sure that there's a high quality craft, or at least the craft and the cost per square foot that they are saying that they work at align. We evaluate their online reputation, make sure there's nothing bad out there in the world. And then obviously we confirm that they have insurance.
And
so once all of that is done, then they can be turned on for matching.
Yeah, and then so because
their firm can be put in front of homeowners.
Yeah, because you're putting your name behind this, right? You're kind of vouching for them at this point. So you need to make sure that you do your homework, and the homeowners, because at the end of the day, I guess if there's any issues, are the homeowners working or coming to you, going to the contractor? How does that work? Because I know, and I know actually maybe this would be a good segue into the financial side of things, because you offer some assurance on that side as well.
Yeah. So we offer an additional $50,000 of loss protection. It's called our Renovator Financial Protection. And you're absolutely right. We are putting our name behind these firms and want to make sure that we are giving both, the commitment to homeowners that we really believe in our process and their firm. The thing you asked about, like, how do we jump in? So we actually, every single general contractor has a dedicated account manager that they have at least one monthly strategic business review with. And then obviously, if they have projects in construction, we're following up with those projects, beginning, middle, and end, to make sure that that homeowner is happy. And the reason why is obviously we want to make sure that the project is going smoothly and that the homeowner is happy. But the star rating that a homeowner gives a general contractor at the end of their project on our platform that directly affects their matching score. And so we want to be able to give them indications that this project is going well or not well, like the truth of what we're hearing, because sometimes a homeowner won't, for whatever reason, early on in a project, they won't give feedback. They'll just be like, yes, everything's fine, everything's fine. We really want to make sure that everything's fine. And so if there's like anything, like, is there anything they could be doing better? Is there anything that you want to tell us so that we can share that feedback and improve the firm? You know, all of our GCs are all ambitious folks who want to grow their firms. And sometimes they're just not getting, you know, it's not like they get like performance reviews at like a corporate job, right? Like when are you getting, you're getting reviews when at the end of the project? You need to be getting reviews all the way through to really understand how a project's going.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so how does the financial protection work then? So if something were to happen, like what is that protecting people against?
So we have I can hear like our legal team like jumping in front of me to say don't start talking about it. We have a bunch of detailed information about it on our website. Please go to our website and read all about it specifically. But
is this for the homeowner though?
Like it's for the homeowner.
Yeah. Okay. And now I'm actually curious. So now I understand you vet the contractors and there's kind of a pre-questionnaire for the homeowners, but is there like a vetting process for homeowners too? Because at the same time, I've been on both, like I'm a customer, sure, I'm not hiring people necessarily to build my house for me, but I've been a customer on many other things. And I understand the importance of being a good customer. And some customers or homeowners just aren't great people to work for. It doesn't matter how much money they have, right? Is there any vetting on that front? Because it's always, I always say there's like three sides to every story, right? If something were to go wrong, there's usually what the contractor thinks, what the homeowner thinks, and then what actually happened.
Yeah. Well, we do have, as I said, so those account managers do jump in on projects, and we have a saying inside of Sweeten, and we actually ended up using it when talking to both homeowners and general contractors on projects that start to go sideways. Now, luckily, our matching works really well. Our vetting works really well. Only a very, very, very small single-digit percentage of projects need any type of additional support. But when they do, as you've identified, these projects are expensive. People can get very emotional very quickly. There's absolutely three sides to every story. And so we jump in and we work with both sides to get back on what we call the path to completion and just keep everybody focused on getting back on the path to completion, because that is the one thing that both client and general contractor can agree. They want the project done.
That's for sure. We, as a contractor, we definitely don't want projects to drag on. So
I know it's one of the funny, like, I don't know where this idea came from. So many homeowners have this idea that general contractors want projects to drag on as if they like get paid by the hour and will make a bunch of money. I don't know where that like seeped into the culture. I'm constantly pointing out to people like, this is not a lawyer. He's not getting paid by the hour. He or she is not getting paid by the hour. Like, why would they be incentivized to have this project go on forever?
Yeah. If they're not there doing any work, then what are they? Yeah. Anyways, we don't need to get into that, but
yeah.
I love everything that you're building and working on, and the fact that you're really bringing both sides and an understanding of both sides to what ultimately is a tough process, right? It's renovations, building homes. It's not a vacation. You know, people are all excited about it, and it's really only fun at the very beginning, and then eventually decision fatigue sets in, and the mess of the house, if you're living through it, sets in. And anyways, emotions, like all this stuff gets into it, right? And people, it becomes less fun the further you get into it, right? So I love that you're navigating all that. So is there other resources too on your website? Like we'll make sure we post everything down below, but are you doing blog posts, videos? Are you helping people navigate all of this as well? Because I know you're helping the people that are involved and working with you, but it sounds like you have a lot of knowledge to share.
Yeah. So we absolutely share all our best practices. Like we really try to share the answers wherever possible. So if you go to our blog, we actually have a dedicated blog for general contractors and for homeowners. On our homeowner blog, we have a ton of before and afters of all of our great renovation projects, because it's one of the beauties of staying with these projects all the way to completion. We get to hear the stories, we get photos, and we share those before and afters on our blog. We also have process guides, checklists, pricing guides on depending upon what city you're in. We've got tons of really, really valuable educational resources to really try to demystify the renovation project, the renovation process for homeowners. On the general contractor side, we have the same kind of educational content, except about growing their business, about how, setting expectations, communication. These things are so important, documentation of work. These things are so important if you want to make a profit on your projects. And we really help general contractors understand, what we've seen work. We work with thousands of GCs as well. And we can see firms that are growing year over year over year, booking, they go from $300,000 of booking with us to $5 million of booking. And so we take what we've learned from those winners and really try to pollinate the rest of the folks with that knowledge.
Yeah, I understand that you have like 1.5 billion in the pipeline or something. Like what does that mean? Is that just means that there's projects that have been posted on through all the cities, like on your website?
Yeah, so that means kitchens, bathrooms, and ADUs and basement renovations. I mean, just thousands and thousands of projects that have been posted to our site.
And are they all getting matched right now? Does every project that gets posted and approved get matched? And like, how are you now? This, I guess, we'll transition into our last thing that I really want to talk about is
Yeah.
is navigating the craziness of the industry right now and the prices increasing and there's just a lot of uncertainty right now out in the marketplace, right? So how is that being navigated with all of your contractors and yourself and the homeowners and work that's ultimately in the pipeline and backed up?
Yeah. So we were, luckily there is less uncertainty in the system than there was a year ago. So we're now in 2021 as opposed to 2020. And yes, there is uncertainty, but it's a different type of uncertainty as opposed to, when we were in the height of the pandemic and especially this shelter in place orders that obviously had a dramatic effect on what work could get done. Now we're dealing with kind of the opposite because there's so much pent up demand. So many people moved. So many people are thinking that they need to be using their homes in completely different ways, at least for the next year, but possibly for the foreseeable future. A lot of places, a lot of, corporate companies or a lot of companies and like bigger companies, smaller companies, all different size companies are moving to this kind of hybrid work from home, work in the office. So 3 days in the office, 2 days working from home. And so that means that people need to be thinking about their homes in a very different way. In fact, I'm recording this podcast sitting in my home office in an apartment that I moved to so that I could have a home office. I didn't have a home office a year ago.
Yeah.
And so because of that huge spike in demand, now we're seeing labor shortages. Now we're seeing, all of the stuff that we saw as far as supply chain disruptions really affecting the construction market. I mean, this, you're building houses. You must be so affected by the cost of lumber.
Oh yeah.
We work in major cities. And so most of our renovations, although we have done additions, we have done new construction, but most of them are interior renovations. And so lumber costs don't affect us as dramatically as the new home builders. That said, there have been really a lot of supply chain issues for every single material, like from
Yeah.
faucets to tiles to mirrors to lights. I mean, anybody who's tried to buy any piece of furniture knows that there's just some real supply chain challenges right now. And the thing that we have encouraged our homeowners, you can get your project done right now if you're willing to be flexible. So if you chose a faucet 6 months ago, and that faucet is going to take another 6 months to the lead time is like tripled for that faucet, let's go find another one that's similar that you also like and like get the renovation done. Or wait until the faucet and all these other components are here and then start like the actual labor part of it. But if you have the opportunity to have labor, you got to let go of some of the materials, or you got to postpone the labor until your materials are all here.
Yeah, and when it's in a renovation, it's sometimes hard to just stop your project. So that's one thing that we've really changed in our process is we have to get everything ahead of time. We can't wait till last minute. We can't do last minute changes the way we used to be able to do them. Things have to be planned as much as we possibly can. And we just order everything and get it to site or get it somewhere so that we know where it is. And when we need it, we can get it.
Well, and you know what's so funny? I mean, in some ways, that process is the ideal process, right? As a general contractor, there's nothing better than having all of the materials spec'd and on site. That's a dream.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to figure it out for a decade now, actually.
Yeah, that's a dream. I mean, that is something we've worked hard to try to really encourage our homeowners to spec as many materials upfront as possible. We've created a whole bunch of platform tools that really encourage them and make them understand, like, okay, you're going to need to select this, this, and this, because decision fatigue is real. People run out of steam. And so while you're super excited about picking tiles and faucets, we really want you to do that upfront.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we do is every single before and after renovation that's featured on our website, we try to link to those materials that are in the photos that you're seeing as much as possible. And I'll tell you a funny side story. So many years ago, we did this bathroom that I don't know why, for some reason, it just like really resonated with people. So we did this bathroom. It had an architectural salvage door that was like from an apothecary. So it said like apothecary, I think it was apothecary or maybe dentist. I forget. Anyway, it's in gold letters on the windowed pane, wood that had been stripped. And then, very beautiful bathroom inside. We spec'd all the materials on the blog post. We built that bathroom. Our general contractors built that bathroom like a dozen more times. People loved that bathroom and just like wholesale copied it. And it's such a unique looking bathroom that you wouldn't have expected people to just like wholesale copy it.
Right.
We built it many, many times.
Well, that's good. That reminds me, actually, one thing we didn't touch on was design. Who's taking care of design in this process? Is it design build firms that you work with, or is there also a designer involved somewhere?
Yeah, so about 10% of the projects that are posted on our site actually either have a designer or are being posted by a designer or an architect. The other 90% are people who we ask to specify how much design that they're looking to achieve. So do you need a design build firm? Do you need someone just to help you to pick materials? Do you need someone just to help coordinate materials that you've already spec'd? Things like, are you thinking about using IKEA? Because some general contractors will not install IKEA for whatever reason, and some will. So we definitely try to get as much information from a homeowner around their design expectations as possible, and then match them accordingly to our network. Because we really, and then other folks, if they're not a real design build firm, they'll have an interior designer that on staff. There's many different combinations of construction firms out there.
Right.
People don't realize that.
Well, this is great, Jean. It's been fantastic. I'm glad I hope the recording worked. We'll find out once there, but
if it didn't work, that'll be amazing.
But I'll make sure to share all the links down below. So for everyone who's listening or watching this, you'll find the links down below. I know you're not operating in every city. You're in the US right now, and you have, I think, a dozen or so cities, probably a little bit more than that now. But that's all on your website, so people can go there. But if Sweeten's not in your city yet, there's still a ton of resources there as well, by the sounds of it. So before we go, though, Jean, any parting words of advice for our listeners and viewers?
I mean, our mission is to have people renovate fearlessly. That's the goal. I think that construction and renovation is just magic. And I want everyone to feel that feeling of really making a space their own. So go out and renovate fearlessly.
Perfect way to end this. Jean, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Glad you watched this until the very end. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, hit the bell button to get all the notifications on all the exciting videos we have coming out every single week, including interviews like this, tech updates, and project updates for all of our exciting projects. Until next time, remember to live consciously.